Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.
When I take a critical examination of the murder of 19-year-old University of Illinois college student Ruth George, I see yet another tragic incident in America's ongoing man crisis here in America. Now, your 19-year-old college student Ruth George wound up being sexually assaulted and getting murdered by your Donald Thurman, all because he was upset that she ignored his catcalls to get her attention. And when I take a look at the behavior of this beta male, Donald Thurman, it fits right in line with the pattern and profile of mass shooters and other criminals I talked about in numerous videos and my book, The Man Crisis. And your Donald Thurman was a ticking time bomb, and it wasn't a matter of if he was going to go off again, but it was a matter of when he was going to go off. And sadly, because our criminal justice system didn't understand the danger that beta males pose on society, they allowed this ticking time bomb to go and roam the streets and then wind up doing damage to the point where a 19-year-old college student like Ruth George wound up losing her life, all because our criminal justice system wanted to give a dysfunctional beta male like Donald Thurman a second chance with parole. Because your Donald Thurman, at 26 years old, 2 years ago, was arrested and convicted of robbery for stealing an iPhone, and he was given parole by the state of Illinois correctional facilities and the criminal justice system. And we clearly see that this was a mistake, because this man who committed a robbery to steal an iPhone on impulse wound up acting on those impulses yet again when somebody like this innocent college student was just ignoring his catcalls, and because she decided to ignore his catcalls, this is what prompted this beta male to act on impulse and then go out of his way to sexually assault and murder this young girl, all because she did not respond the way he wanted her to. And this Donald Thurman's behavior fits right in line with the pattern and profile I talk about as related to the spectrum of violent behaviors that beta males participate in my book, The Man Crisis. And this behavior that he participated in is part of that spectrum of violent behaviors that beta males participate in, because when these men do not believe they are getting the reaction they want from other people, they wind up exploding in their rage, and that explosion of rage leads to them participating in a spectrum of violent behaviors, which can range from a screaming fit all the way up to murder. But what's really sad about this situation with your Donald Thurman is that the state of Illinois criminal justice system had a chance to keep this man off the street and prevent him from winding up destroying somebody's life. But because the criminal justice system failed, this man went from committing a violent act of robbery all the way up to first-degree murder. And an innocent college student wound up losing her life because this beta male just did not know how to take no for an answer. And that's really the greatest tragedy about this, is that this tragedy could have been prevented had our criminal justice system been functional, and had your Donald Thurman been given a 6-year prison sentence and made to serve that entire 6 10-year prison sentence. Had he been denied parole, this man would not have been on the street, and this young lady would still be alive today. But because our criminal justice system gave the wrong man a second chance, this young woman wound up losing her life. And what's really the greatest tragedy about this case is that everyone will look at this case talking about Me Too and stopping sexual assault, but they won't look at the bigger picture, which is the man crisis going on here in America and how these beta males are ticking time bombs. And if we do not understand the spectrum of violent behaviors that beta males participate in, we don't understand the pattern and profile of beta males or the foundation of their behavior, which is the single mother household, then we are not going to be able to prevent any more acts of violence from other beta males like your Donald Thurman, because these men are all across our country. And what's really scary is that it's not a matter of if these men participate in a violent act like your Donald Thurman did, where he sexually assaulted and murdered Ruth George. It's a matter of when these men participate in an act of violence, because these men are ticking time bombs, and all it takes is someone, sadly, like Ruth George, to step in their direction to be impacted by the damage from the violence these men participate in. And that's the scariest part of it is that we have 2 to 3 generations of Donald Thurmans out there, and they're all roaming our streets ready to go off because many people, again, don't want to deal with these beta males, because to deal with these beta males and their violent behavior means dealing with the single mothers all across this country, dealing with the way they have raised boys in an extremely dysfunctional fashion, and dealing with the issues as related to holding these women accountable for raising these dysfunctional boys to become the extremely dangerous men who roam all across our society and terrorize communities all across this country and abroad. If you'd like to learn more about why men like Donald Thurman participate in their spectrum of violent behaviors, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle formats. And in that book, you will learn in depth all of the patterns for behavior that these beta participate in, and the spectrum of violence that destroys lives all across this country and abroad. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available for the first time in paperback. Stop simping in the workplace. Men, learn what you need to know in order to protect your job from workplace predators with Stop Simping in the Workplace. Available in paperback at online booksellers everywhere.